I believe that for most artists in the 21st century, the independent music scene is the way to go for so many different reasons. It's such a unique creation that has been carved out within the entire rest of the music industry. You always will have the major label artists such as, Taylor Swift's, Pharrell Williams, anybody else you can think of, Silk Sonic. Silk Sonic's actually one of my favorite bands, actually. But you're also going to have the independent scene. And then maybe another third of this scene down here will eventually be AI music, right? But the independent music scene, for me, always spoke to me because as an artist myself, first and foremost, as a music producer and songwriter specifically, I always have valued my freedom to just be the artist and create what I want without needing to answer to somebody else, whether it is my record label, my producer or manager, any other, stakeholders within, your company or something like that. That never really appealed to me because I think it damages the very spirit of just creativity in general, which is, just letting the artist be the artist, And there's a lot of political stuff involved within the the traditional sort of large scale music industry with the major labels and stuff like that. People may be stealing your work. You may not be getting credited. You may not be getting properly compensated because it's sort of like this hazing period where you need to prove to yourself that you can be part of the system. And then once you are part of the system, then the system takes care of you. And I just, I didn't really have any interest in being associated with all that. I felt it was very, very disingenuous, a very toxic thing to be a part of. Now, that's not going to be, everybody. Of course, some people can navigate that aspect of the music industry and turn out just fine. I say her name a lot, but Taylor Swift is a great exception to this rule about this. As someone that was able to navigate that part of the music scene and still turn out, more or less okay, as an individual, and her music was still able to, break through all this red tape. And she was, able to make what she wanted to make, at least eventually. Like, I think a great contemporary example was with her Taylor's versions of one of her albums or past versions of these older songs where she couldn't re-release older songs through her label. She's like, okay, I'm going to create new master recordings through my own company that I will own 100%, and then I can just make what I want to make. Because a lot of people who are fans of Taylor Swift will just check out Taylor Swift's music just because she made it, right? And that's really where I'm getting at with the appeal of the independent scene. Is just, if people like you as the artist or have liked past music that you're creating, they just want you to do your thing. As long as it's good, people are going to want to listen to it. And that just allows you to be so much more creative and experiment and reiterate on the process as an artist, which I believe that is the most important part of the artist's journey and growth, and just keeping it exciting and fun. Because we have to remember, at the end of the day, the music making process is supposed to be fun. I think one of the issues that people fall into, and myself included, at least a couple of years ago, maybe not so much these days, but you're super worried about the result of the outcome of when you release a project or you pitch for this particular client or whatever the case may be, and you're a little worried that if you don't meet these expectations that you set yourself, that it's automatically a failure of your time, and that couldn't be further from the truth. I've learned to become very indifferent to the result of whatever a project is with a client, with my own music that I release, whatever it is, whether opportunity within the music industry, because that's not going to be the last song that I create or write for or whatever, right? So I'm more interested in just looking at long-term, just, did I make what I want to create? Did I make it the way that I wanted to make it? And did I make the thing with who I wanted to make it with? And if I can answer yes to all three of those questions, then it's a success, no matter what happens to it. And I think you just need to realize that once you put it out into the world, then it's no longer just yours anymore, belongs to the world, and either people are going to like it or they're not going to like it. That's just the way that goes, man. But attaching your entire self-worth to whether or not people like the stuff that you create, I think is a very, very toxic way to view the music creation process and just your experience as an artist in general. So I think it's very important to detach yourself from the results. I think Russ talks about this quite a bit. He makes some really good content about navigating life within the music industry as an independent artist. He was the weekly Song a Week SoundCloud guy, right? So he has some very interesting takes on this and talks a lot more about this concept of detaching yourself from the result. And I think that once you get past that hurdle, it just becomes that much more fun afterwards. And that is, I think, something very often overlooked about the independent music scene is, yes, it's a lot of extra work because you're assuming all of these additional responsibilities that a label may not be doing for you or a manager may not be doing for you. And then maybe eventually you want to invite more people into your team, right? But it's also so much more fun because you can just do what you want to do, make what you want to create. And I think that is very undervalued today with the whole, the sound-alike beats and AI music and stuff like this, or I need to stick to, this certain release schedule to, make sure I'm, keeping the ball rolling with my momentum. And I think you kind of sometimes going with that process, you lose sight of the beauty of the creation process and being able to reiterate on it and to expand what you're doing as the artist. And if you're trying to stick to that quota, so to speak, you stifle your own creativity sometimes. Some people are able to do a song a week, every other week, or monthly, whatever the case may be, and they're good with that. And obviously, you do need to create music consistently and release it consistently if you're a recording artist, performing artist, to make sure that you're building that momentum and showing people that, hey, I'm serious. You can go check out my music, and you're starting to build a catalog that way. But the beauty of operating within the independent music scene is that you can choose your own frequency of releasing your music. And you couldn't really do that if you were signed to a label or something like that, where there's other stakeholders involved in, telling you, oh, well, you shouldn't do this, you should be doing that, we should change how you sound, how you look, how you behave, how you carry yourself. And then it can very quickly become disingenuous, So that's always been the thing that I've loved about the independent music scene, and why I realized I couldn't really ever exist within the mainstream music scene, because I value my own freedom of my own creativity, far too much, which I believe every artist should. You need to be the artist, make what you want to create, because chances are, if you like it, then other people will like it as well. There's 8 billion people in the world these days. 4 billion of those people have access to the internet. So that's the size of your market to pull from, whether you're a recording artist, music producer, songwriter, audio engineer, whatever role you're fulfilling within the creative side of the music industry. You have so many people at your disposal if you just put yourself out there and show people that I'm CC Beats, I do this, I exist, and if people want to hire you, work with you, listen to your music, buy your merch, buy your product, come to a show, whatever, that's fantastic, right? And I think that you need to just start the process, and everything else will fall into place once you do this long enough and realize what is working, what's not working, and what you enjoy doing, what you don't enjoy doing so much. And then you can really optimize this career for you and what you're trying to get, not only out of your music career, but what you're trying to get out of your personal life. And that is the latter, what I said there, what you're trying to get out of your personal life. I think that can be overlooked so much when you are under a contract with a label, or some other, entity. And you have that obligation to fulfill because, you did sign that contract and you did, with your consent say, yes, I will fulfill my obligations to the terms of this deal. And you may put some of your personal life goals on hold because of that, because you have these other responsibilities that you need to adhere to and fulfill. But if you're doing this independently for yourself and you're making the rules and you're in charge of your own destiny that way, then you can make sure that you're making time to fulfill the stuff that you want to get out of your personal life. And this was something that I struggled with for quite a bit until maybe even just a few months ago. I'll be honest with you, at least at the time of recording this episode here. I wanted to eventually be somewhere where I could live just in and around nature and by the ocean especially. I've always loved surfing, beachcombing, seashell hunting, even just swimming at the beach. Not so much sunbathing at the beach. I'm kind of the guy that needs to be active and get on my feet and move around and everything. One of the reasons I never really liked just chilling by the pool and working on my tan is I need to move around and do stuff. So jet skiing, wind sailing as well, beach volleyball, all that kind of stuff. Surfing's still my personal favorite though. I want to get my own longboard so that I don't need to pay, hundreds if not thousands of dollars to rent surfboards for several hours. Cause I will be out there for 3, 4, 5 hours at a time for sure. But I want to live in that area because there's just something about the ocean that has always been very inspirational for me and my creativity, but also just for my personal life and what I enjoy doing outside. It all revolves around the ocean, and that's something that just fulfills me a lot personally. So I always am navigating towards this, personal life goal of mine, because I believe that you need to be happy with your life outside of your work. And then that'll help you to be even more efficient with, scaling up your business, right? And I think a lot of people just sort of disregard that area of their lives, and they sort of have their professional career and you build your life around your career. But I think it should be the other way around. You should build your career around your life, because at the end of the day, work is kind of like a rubber ball. If you drop it, it'll bounce right back up to you. You can catch it. You can pick it up at any time again. But everything else, your romantic relationships, your friendships, your familial relationships, that's a huge one. These are all glass balls. If you drop them, you may never be able to pick up the pieces and put that ball back together and make it whole again. So personal life first, and then build your work around your personal life. In my opinion, I think that's the best way to conduct yourselves, just in general. It doesn't even have to be within the music industry, just any industry in general. And again, the whole theme of the independent music scene being having that unparalleled freedom, this is what allows you to, choose to build your work around your life, right? And what you're trying to accomplish with your personal life. So that's always been a huge one for me as well. It didn't always used to be this way where we had so much power through leveraging the internet, social media, email, whatever the case may be, to reach the people that we either want to work with or are listeners of our music or potentially partners within our business than it is right now. And it's a truly beautiful thing, which is why the independent music scene, I think, is if this way of conducting your career and your life speaks to you, where you want unparalleled freedom and you're assuming all that extra responsibility that comes with that, then I highly recommend that you start right now. There's no better time. There's no time like the present than to start what it is that you want to get going. And I know that with this thought of having so much freedom, it may be a little overwhelming and kind of scary. And I definitely know that when I started the Vibe Check, it was a scary process for me because I spent the whole entire summer. I did nothing but worked. When I was, at the time, I was still living with my folks, and I was doing DoorDash the entire summer to save up the money I needed for my startup costs for my LLC, because I needed the business registration, I needed to upgrade my computer, I needed to get some memberships and subscriptions so that I have all the tools I need to operate as a music production company in the most efficient way possible. And I did nothing but just work the entire summer, and it was pretty miserable in that respect. So I was a little worried that, oh man, I spent all this time, made these sacrifices for, this entire 3 months, more like 3.5 months, I suppose. And I just hope that's going to be worth it, and that it pays off, and that it works. And, the hardest part about starting is starting. Now, that's something that my grandfather taught me. He was a businessman for about 20 plus years or so. And he taught me a lot about, the basics of, entrepreneurship and just money in general, currency, how the economy functions and all that, right? And the value that you provide for people is directly proportional to how much they'll want to pay for you, So he was very, very good about explaining concepts like these to me at a younger age, The hardest part about starting is starting. It seems like such a simple concept, but it's just so overlooked. And that's one of the reasons why people will just never take that first step and, start this journey, even if it is something that you wanted to do your entire life, whether that is, make money playing guitar, or you want to be a vocal coach or a professional, mixing, mastering engineer. Just the fear of starting out and being bad at the thing at first, or you're going to have a series of failures that you may not be able to recover from. I can tell you that from my own experience, you will have your failures, you will have shortcomings, you will have some negative experiences with clients or whatever. But you use this failure as an opportunity to learn, because failure is your best teacher in all of life. It teaches you what not to do again, so that you can prevent that failure from happening in the future. You reiterate on your own process, and then you become more efficient so that you have more successes than failures. And then, that'll translate into the money that you're earning with your music business. Really at the end of the day, so long as the lights are on, you have a roof over your head, you have food in your fridge. If you have dependents, you make sure that they're all fed and watered and taken care of, that you're there for them. As long as you're doing all that, like you're good. You don't have to be making, millions of dollars within the music industry to have a successful career within it, or to have a healthy business within the music industry, and something I talked about in my episode 0, where I was introducing myself, is that when I was talking about my story and everything, is, I thought that the only path available to me within the music industry was, rock star or bust, basically. But that is not the case at all. There's so many different avenues that you can take, especially within the independent music scene, that allow you to earn a full-time living with your music, but you don't need to be making, gobs and gobs of dollars. If you want to scale it up and make that kind of money, then, more power to you, and, I'll root for you and everything. But if that's either not important to you, you don't have the desire to do that, or you just think it's such a daunting task right now, then, just start out smaller. Just make sure that your business can scale up to the point where it can pay for your life. And then you can, take the profits from your business and reinvest it in the business or assets not related to your industry. Just recently, as at the time of recording this video, I took some extra money from my company, and I recently invested it in REITs, real estate investment trusts. And that will allow me to earn dividend interest. So every quarter, for every share I own of these companies, they pay, dividends quarterly. So that's one of the ways that you can do it. It's something that I was looking to get into for a while. Little side note here, when I was in community college, I was invested in stocks. Actually, when I was in high school, I was invested in stocks. Then I sold out of it to buy a PA system, which I didn't use at all, unfortunately. So I had to sell that off. I was looking to get back into stocks. And I think this would be a great way to do that with the REITs. So I'm going to give that a shot, and maybe I'll even talk about it a little bit on here if that interests you guys at all. I could give y'all a little bit of an update on how that's all going. But that's a great way to leverage the money that you're earning from your music business so that you can make sure that your life expenses are paid, so that once your basic needs are covered, then you can just figure out, okay, now what do I want to build? What do I want to accomplish? What do I want to give back to the world? Which I believe is such an important part of being a creative professional, is we want to leave our corner of the world, at least I think we should, leave our respective corners of the world a brighter place than when we first found it, right? And to be exerting positive influences online when there's so much negativity out there, especially these days, just with the state of everything in the world, it seems like. So I think that is the responsibility of us as artists to provide a different way of looking at things, different perspective, and a refreshing one at that, and you as the independent musician, the independent music practitioner, whatever it is, you have so much power to do that and to have this direct line of communication with your people. You just want to make sure that you're, exerting more of a positive influence. At least in my opinion, I think that's how it should be done, because I think us as just people have the responsibility to engage in respectful, open conversations without it like degrading into a yelling match all the time and stuff like that, to provide an alternative approach just to how we carry ourselves as people and how we connect with each other. And luckily, you have a phone and you have access to the internet. Even if it's not at your place, you could go to like your McDonald's, you could go to your gym, you could go to, a public library, and through the power of social media, you can connect with the people that you need to connect with. And hopefully you're able to provide enough value for these people, and then they can engage with your business and whatever that business may be. If you're a recording artist and they go check out your music on, streaming, or they purchase it, from a Bandcamp, maybe they sign up for a subscription-based model that you have of some sort. They go to a show if you're a performing artist. If you're like me and you're a music producer, songwriter, then maybe people consider hiring you to help them make their creations, stuff like that. Same thing if you're a mixing mastering engineer and trying to get more clients, engaging with your business, and it's just, you have so much power as an independent because you're that much more flexible, whether it is trying out a new format, a new social media platform in general, pivoting, when you and your company may need to, if you're going down a route that it just is not working out anymore for you. Recently with the Vibe Check, my company, we did that recently actually, where I was offering record label services, so music distribution, music publishing, song registration, and more active management over an artist's career. I love working with people. I really believe in people and the amazing things that we can accomplish when we're all working together towards that common goal. But I was doing it all on my own, and my work as a music producer, songwriter was becoming more demanding, which is great. Like that's fantastic. I'm not complaining about that. But the issue was balancing that with my other responsibilities as the, more management admin stuff with the record label services. And I just couldn't get it to work. So I pivoted with the Vibe Check, and now we're just doing music production services, because I felt like if I continued trying to do all these record label-like services, then I couldn't reach my fullest potential as a music producer, songwriter, which is what most people hire me for anyways, So at some point you have to take a look at where the money is coming in from what people are, willing to pay you for. And you kind of need to follow where these opportunities are going, because you're able to scale that up over time, and you'll be able to make up for the losses that you were having when you were doing, maybe you were offering 12 different services at first, but if you can do 3 of those services really, really well, it doesn't matter that you lost those other 8 services, because the money you're making with these 3 services, now that you're focusing exclusively on that, will replace all that money that you lost, right? So You just have so much more flexibility to be able to change your approach, your direction when you're operating, independently. And also, if you just need to take time off or having control over your own schedule, like that's the thing for me, man. I love being in control of my own time. I don't have someone I need to answer to. Like if I needed to work for a client during the week, during a day shift, maybe I was getting, super busy with clients or something, and I was able to make enough from these clients to replace the money I would have lost that week from the day shift. And it's like, all right, I don't work my day job that week, and I don't need to check with anybody about it. I don't need to call up my boss and be like, hey, can you give me that time off so I can go do this music thing? They're going to be like, what the fuck, no? Or speaking with my label or my manager or whatever, like I'm in charge of my own destiny and how I work. Or if I just, needed to take time off, maybe I get sick. Maybe I just want to go on vacation, maybe you got a date that weekend or something, and I just, wanted to give myself that extra personal time. You have that power to do that as an independent music practitioner, and you wouldn't have that power if you had all these other people answering to you and all these other restrictions on your creativity. And I want to make this point, now that I said that, restrictions on creativity. I want to make this point clear that with these major label artists, or just major labels in general, there's a lot that I disagree with in terms of the business side of things, but in terms of, how you conduct yourself with your creative projects, with your time, and what you commit to, I don't blame anybody for going with what is mainstream and selling, because you have to remember, with all the people, again, I keep bringing up Taylor Swift, I do apologize, but I think she's such a great contemporary example. All the people that are directly connected to Taylor Swift in terms of what money Taylor Swift makes directly impacts the livelihood of potentially thousands of people that are connected to her. So to a point, you might just need to go with what works and what will sell, because you have all these other people depending on you and the money that you're gaining from your music creations. And something that a lot of artists that I've seen have done is they'll still do, whatever it is they do with their major label contract, just to make sure everybody's good and taken care of, because they realize that it's not just me and my money on the line. Like I'm basically feeding all of these people with my music. But then they have this other project done through another business or something like that, or maybe just in their own name, an independent release, where they can be more creative, take some chances, because there really is no danger, which is something that these large artists that I think Taylor Swift's been releasing a lot of projects under her own name recently, and the independent music scene, where, by the way, take a shot every single time I say Taylor Swift in this episode, right? But there's just so many similarities with just the amount of flexibility you have with what you want to take on, because it's just you and your stuff on the line, as opposed to all these other people attached to you. Because for me, at least, having so many people attached to the income that I would be making is, I think, too much to bear, so I think that's when I realized that, between the freedom over my creative projects, being allowed to change the direction I'm going with, be in full control of my own time, that's when I realized that, okay, this is direction that I want to go with. This is where I feel like I can not only provide the most value within the independent music scene, but also get the most happiness on my life, man, because, it's cheesy as fuck, I know, but you need to make sure that you just do what makes you happy at the end of the day. Luckily, this whole music thing, whether it's, within the independent music scene, or you have a label contract, or maybe it's the scholarly opportunity, you're a professor somewhere, or you're a teacher doing private lessons or something like that. It's just music. Nobody dies. Nobody dies if a project doesn't do well, or you have a bunch of failed projects, at least failed commercial projects, because there's this whole difference between like creative success and financial success when it comes to music projects. That might be something I dive into in another episode or a YouTube video. But at the end of the day, you just need to ask yourself, am I happy doing this? Am I fulfilled? Because there's lots of people within the music industry that absolutely hate what they do, whether it is, creating the music or the business admin side of things. They're just there because, it's just something that they know how to do well and earns them money, and that's good enough, but they're not happy doing it. And if you're not happy with where you're at within the music industry or operating within the music industry at all, then you really seriously need to reevaluate things. Because if you don't love this, not just love it, you need to be like obsessed, like hopefully healthily obsessed with music in general and super passionate about the creative process. Because if you aren't passionately obsessed with creating music and just the art form in general, then this definitely isn't the career path for you, no matter which aspect of the industry you look at. You'll have a shelf life, so to speak, right? As opposed to having a career that spans decades, then your career might be over in a couple of years, So I think you absolutely need to love whatever it is you're doing within the music industry to be able to stick to it for a long period of time. And if you're anything like me, then you absolutely are in love with just what music is on its own, what it has made you feel, and just the beauty that you get from connecting with other people through making the music, sharing the music with other people. It's a very wholesome experience that I think can be warped a lot by nefarious individuals within certain segments of the music industry, right? And I think you obviously know by now which ones that I am talking about. So I just think the independent music scene is such a unique creation, and I know that I'll be building my career within it for several years to come, and I hope that you'll be joining me in that experience. So let me know what you guys are doing within your own little corners of the world here within the music industry. I'd be very curious to learn what your experiences have been like and where you're at currently, what you're trying to accomplish. Let's keep the conversation moving. I love it. This interaction with our people. We're just talking about what we love to do. Those are my thoughts on the independent music scene and why I recommend it to anybody that's wanting to do anything with the music scene, especially if you're on the creative side of things.